Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm glad to have you back. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already done so, would you please subscribe to the podcast on any one of your favorite channels? There's at least 30 of them, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, you name it. Just grab the one you like and subscribe. And while you're out there, visit globalinvestoragent.com. This is for especially you investors and consumers who are looking for the right agent. They're on the website. We're in half the states, at least by now. And we got a great guest today, by the way, who I'll introduce in a minute, who's also on the website. So in any case, and if you are an agent and you're not sure what to do in this market, never fear. Click on the Learn More button on the website. And the key is you've got to have a balanced model, regular consumers, owner-occupants we call regular consumers, and investors both. That's the key. And not every investor. We'll show you how to work with the right kind of investors. So in any case, without further ado, let me introduce Shastine Bredlie. And I know Shastine personally because we're on the same team together. So Shastine, thank you very much for doing this. This is a real pleasure for me because we do work together. And I know you, and I can tell you, she absolutely is. Shastine is 100% A+ 5-star rock star status. So now that I've got your head bigger than a hot air balloon, Shastine, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, if you wouldn't mind, I love your story and I love the message you share with people in your life, personally, professionally. But if you wouldn't mind, share with the folks listening, how did you get into this business? What were you doing that led up to this? And a little bit of background would really help,
Yeah, I always tell people that one of my very good friends lied to me. And so, just one of those general conversations, you would be really good at real estate. And I'm like, I have another friend and they just seem to be running in to meetings, head cut off, very scattered, always late. And she's like, oh, no. Like, I just work by appointment on the weekends. I set my own schedule, and you work when you want. And I'm like, really? And so, I listened to her. I didn't know anything better, but, quickly learned after I got my license that, if you're going to be a good agent, you actually have to treat it like a business. And it's not, turn off the watch. I mean, I understand boundaries, but also there is a sense of urgency to contracts, to clients that have a heightened sensitivity regarding what's going on with their property. And those take priority. And so I quickly learned that. I also quickly learned that where you actually work, the brokerage that you work for, the surrounding that you're placed in absolutely matters to your success. Because again, when I got my license, I joined that brokerage that my girlfriend worked at, thinking that broker of 30 years would take me under her wings and teach me everything that I needed to know so that I could be the best agent ever. And that really was not the case. She barely went over the forms, said I'd learn as I go. Agents were very closed in with what they did, how they marketed, how they got their clients. And I quickly realized that, number one, I didn't want my clients to be a guinea pig. I wanted to, it was my job to be educated. It was my job to know how best to serve my clients. And so I really sought to get personal coaching. So I quickly dived into Roger Butcher, if you remember him when he was back in the day. This is close to 19 years ago. My goodness, Gary. And quickly got into coaching. And like within a month or two, agents were coming and they're like, wow, where'd you get that? Well, and I was always an open book. So I'm always like, well, first of all, I was like, you don't have this? but not all agents are like, but that's not always to the fault of the agent. They just don't know what they don't know. So I do have a lot of agents these days because of my reputation in my community that will come to me when they're looking to switch brokerages or looking to go from a solo agent into a team concept. Or even getting into real estate. And I have a very open and frank conversation with them. I really don't want them to, have a pie in the sky idea. I really want them to have a clear understanding of what will be required of them if they truly want to be successful, because you really shouldn't be a recreational agent. It is no service to your client, and it's really not fair to your family. And so, you just really need to become aware, and who you are associated with means the world. So, yes, I will get off of that soapbox, but that's a short synopsis of my introduction into real estate.
Well, that was perfect. And what's interesting is, we have a great diversified audience. Business owners, professionals, consumers, and of course real estate agents both. And it's really good for the consumers to hear this kind of stuff because, the business is unique. It's totally sales oriented. I'm not saying other industries aren't; they certainly are. But there's low barriers to entry into real estate. A lot of people come from different industries, different walks of life. Some people have professional experience, some don't. And so you mentioned something really important, which is, running it like a business. And that's really vital. At the same time, you made sure you put in there that, hey, you know what, the market really dictates how you operate and what barriers you have and what you maintain and when you maintain them, because the way the market's been the last few years, it moves so fast. And, you have multiple people bidding on the same properties and waiving contingencies and things like that. As an agent representing your clients, you absolutely have to be available and be responsive. And I'm all about scheduling and all that. Believe me, I do that all the time. But the market really does dictate how you behave in the business place. And those that adapt and just like you, Shastine, always prevail. And I've seen you over the last several years. I know you've been in it 19 years. And so you've been through one complete full market cycle. Now we're into the next one. And it's just starting to show up. I mean, we went through a real rapid phase of price increases, followed by some rate increases from the Fed. So those of us that have been around long enough realize, okay, we're heading into correction. It's just a mathematical certainty. Now, having said that, and I want to stop railing too, because I tend to be an analyst and I go down that rabbit hole. But I'd rather have everybody get to know you a little bit better and where you are. And so relative to that, the market's starting to change. Are you still seeing though a lot of real fast, properties, days on market still being very short, multiple offers? Tell me what you're seeing there in beautiful Vancouver, Washington,
Yeah, in Southwest Washington, Vancouver, Washington, which of course borders Portland, Oregon. More people are familiar with Portland, Oregon when we say that, but actually, our market is beginning to shift into a buyer's market. And so it's just right at that cuff, which is a little different because if you go into our multiple listing service, right now, our latest stats noted that we had 2.4 months of inventory, in which those numbers in itself would say we're in a seller's market because we have limited inventory. That's true. We do have limited inventory, but we also have limited buyers because of the higher interest rates. There's a little bit more of hesitancy of should they wait, should they not wait, and so a lot of people are, unless they have to make the move, and are willing to, like they say, you date the rate and marry the house type of scenario, then, unless they do that, they're kind of, pumping the brakes there. However, the buyer's market, we're going to have on average, they consider a buyer's market to be about 5 to 6 months of inventory or more is considered a buyer's market. However, when I go into, there's certain reports that I go into that's not just the multiple listing report, but lets me know what's going on by zip code. Because as you well know, when everybody gives a temperature, it's not 80 degrees across the United States. Every single state, every single area, every single city, zip code will have a different barometer that's associated with, how is the housing in that area. And so again, going back to the knowledge of the agent needs to be very, very diligent on, watching what the market is doing, not just having a blanket statement, but actually going into different resources that are available to them and doing the research to find out, is this area a buyer's market or is this area still a seller's market? But overall, right now it is hovering on an index. I don't know if you're familiar with Outpost reports, but they're really good because you can, dial in by zip code in areas or broader areas. But, it will let you know, according to the zip code is going to be lower. It's going right into that buyer, right at the cuff. Right now, we're in between on the barometer. We're at just one notch before it being at buyer's market. Now, with that being said, a sub to a sub to a sub of this topic. The other part that we need to make sure to make note of when we're talking about the buyer's market, seller's market, and the amount of inventory that's associated with the market is going to have to do with when you're according to the price point, because the price point is going to be a barrier of, do we have buyers coming into an entry level? Is it going to be a move up buyer? And those things are going to dictate, of course, days on market, whether there's limited inventory or whether there's more than enough inventory. So, it's not just only by the neighborhood or location zip code, but it's also going to be according to price point. And then, of course, overall, if you were going to take that broad spectrum, you would say, yes, we're moving into that buyer's market. We're not seeing multiple offers. We are seeing buyers having the ability to be able to negotiate and get closing cost concessions, get those free refrigerators or, things like that, where sellers before just really didn't have to do anything, and they just sat back and picked what they wanted to the best, to what fit their circumstances best. And the buyer just kind of had to deal with it. And so here, buyers are able to get more. Inventory is less. But the number of buyers looking right now are also fewer. And so we are seeing more days on market for sure. So, Yep.
And it's happening pretty much everywhere. There are some markets that are still, really, really tough, strictly sellers markets. But for the most part, most of the country has already started changing. It started back in the summertime. We saw an instant 10% correction just in Virginia alone. It was more dramatic than other states. And but let's talk a little bit about the marketplace there some more, if you don't mind. So obviously over time, things change, the pricing models change and so forth. For example, 20 years ago, the first time homebuyer market was up to maybe 250,000. Now it's up to maybe 500. So I don't know, but what would you say are some of the key strata in the Portland, Vancouver area, first time home buyer, move up buyer, luxury, that type of thing,
Yeah. Well, what was very disheartening to me was the fact that we were rated number 4 as the most expensive state to purchase a home.
Wow.
And so that was, and number 3, of course, was Oregon. So, but we were still in the top 5, which means that a home affordability has really gotten tough for buyers. So now, our first time home buyers are, in the 4s now. So it's about getting, finding those different special programs that are out there. And us, again, as agents, educating clients, even though we're not lenders, we can have a general understanding and provide that understanding and then direct them to a lender that can give them specifics regarding programs that can help them come into home ownership now. And so, because of that, right now it's tough for first-time home buyers. I mean, it really is. It's unless you have the money to do a heavy fixer, which means you'd have to do a rehab loan, right? In order to do that. But again, the interest rates may push out that first-time home buyer because their savings or their actual income coming in, they may not be able to afford it.
Yeah. And that's interesting. You mentioned that because there's still a lot of, I guess you call them the gurus saying, hey, we're going to be okay because there's so much demand. But you and I will both know this. When prices go up dramatically for a period of time, followed by an increase in rates, which has now happened 4 times since they started raising rates this past year, and we're being told there might be another one, it does pull people out of the market. Those are the buyers. That's the demand side. And as you reduce the numbers of buyers on the demand side, of course, it reduces demand. And it's like a seesaw. So demand goes down, and that means supply is inevitably going to creep up because there's properties aren't selling as fast, and there's still people wanting to sell. Now it will eventually hit equilibrium, but we never know. That equilibrium I always thought was kind of a myth, because it's never stays stagnant. It's always moving. The market's always moving. But I want people to be prepared out there. I'm not trying to scare anybody. Obviously, I think my gosh, our country's in great shape economically. We've suffered, or been through recessions before, some so mild you couldn't even detect it. The last one was pretty dramatic, I will admit. But at the same time, people don't realize this. Transaction volume in the last recession was only down collectively across the country 25%. 25% is a lot, but what that means is 75% of the housing market was still intact. Properties are still being bought and sold. I don't think it's going to be nearly that bad this time around. So people just have to keep that perspective that, the vast majority of the business is still trucking right along. And it is good to have, a more of an equalized market. It just, the negotiating, coming to that actual true price is really important. I mean, when you feel like you're getting beat up, 50 offers on a property and people are going way over hundreds of thousands of dollars and waiving inspections. I mean, really important things. That's not healthy. That'll cause problems later on down the road. And that's why I'm always a favor of, let the market do its thing, because it will correct. It always does. It always has. So in any case, that's the first time market. Now, what would you consider a luxury market there? Is that now a solid million plus, or is it, what's the range there, I guess?
Yeah. What's so funny is we used to have very few $1 million homes,
Mm-hmm.
And now just over the last 3 years, our homes over $1 million have just skyrocketed. So now the luxury is around the 900 or up. We still have very few homes that are at 3 million, 4 million, so we don't have a lot of homes like that, unless it's acreage with that 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 square foot home kind of up and tucked away on a view will have, a higher price point on it. Or, we have very limited property along the Columbia River. So when one of those comes up, that'll be around 2 million or 3 or 4, kind of depending on whether it has its own boat dock or, what comes with it type of scenario, or whether it's one up in between that railroad that we have.
Yeah.
But still prime property. But so we just have limited, how they built just limited areas that allow for prime real estate to be taken up. And those people, when they have it, a lot of times don't move for a while. We're not a high turnover move out state. I believe the stats that I was just looking at for the migration coming out of Washington, we had a migration rate, I think, of 43% that moved out. But then we had 49 come in, and that was coming from other states. So like a lot of people came from California because it's easy to commute, and a lot of people were able to work remotely. And so they naturally wanted to move somewhere that was still close enough and and was more affordable. They could sell their home and buy a couple here, 3.
Oh no, it's amazing. So, yeah. Just hop on I-5 and drive through Oregon, and so beautiful country out there. By the way, everybody listening, if you've not been out there, I really encourage you, put it on your list of places to visit. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful, the country out there. I've whitewater rafted out there, been to the beach, been to the mountains, camped, hiked, you name it. And by the way, lots of great restaurants and some pretty awesome people too, for that matter.
Lots to do.
Yeah. And by the way, if you come across a property on the Columbia River, please make sure I'm on the list of people to send it to. I'm here on the Beaver River here in Western Pennsylvania, at least part of the time. And very rarely do we ever see anything come up on the river. It's extremely rare. I mean, maybe once every couple of years. And that intrinsic value, that's hard to put a price tag on. I mean, it's just, when you got to have it, you got to have it. And people will pay a couple $1 million just for the view. Yeah. And then they put their teepee on the property, So, hey, you mentioned some programs. I'm not sure. I know there's sometimes it's state specific, but are there any programs out there, and are they mainly for first time home buyers? To help them get in or maybe even grants. I mean, right now, obviously, affordable housing is a huge need all around the country. Are there grants for people that help them get into some low interest rate or long term programs for those folks? Anything you come to mind you can think of?
Yeah, we still have the Washington Bond program, but again, that will kind of stipulate where and how much you make still on it. That, obviously it's not a free for all on that one. Actually, lately, even when we're comparing and we're having, as I get updates from lenders, of course, a lot of them are just saying that, going back to the 3-1 buy down, 2-1 buy downs that they have out, and then of course, what was another? Oh, they have the teacher and the fireman, and certain programs like that allow them to come in, but it's still, there's like no blanket one right now that seems like everybody's jumping into, and I don't know if it's just still because the rates still aren't affordable enough. Overall, that mortgage payment is what seems to be the block.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, my gosh, it's now it's easily more than double what it was this time last year. I mean, it was so fast,
Yeah.
But I will now. Let me ask you about this. We were speaking mostly about the traditional market, owner occupants, but how's the investor business? Are people still flipping homes, or is that slowed down, or what kind of things are you seeing there?
Yeah, we've seen a huge slowdown in that. There's not as many flippers. Now it's more of the purchased rentals, which is, I mean, our rental rates went up 19%. It's just really expensive to rent here. I mean, it's just a studio is 14, 1 bedroom is 16, and it just goes, and that's small. That's not a large, that's apartment. That's not like a townhome or, So, and then depending on whether you're east side, west side, centrally located, you're going to have it go up or just stay at a moderate rate. So, what's popular now is people are renting out their rooms, and the rooms now, I mean, I know my rental, we rent out a room for $700, and it just has a quarter of a bath. It doesn't have a full bath or a half bath. It has a separate little double door exit out of the home itself. But people are renting rooms, and there's, it seems like the younger generation really doesn't mind that. They're really trying to just streamline their cost and have their money go towards schooling or different things that are important to them. And so they have no problem having that community, hostel type of living, where they just share common areas and have their own little space. So, yeah. And so a lot of people are getting creative, and they're purchasing and renting out rooms and trying to find those, daylight ranches or those tri-levels or things like that will create a different space for them. Also, we're starting to see the little, tiny houses and the little smaller homes trying to, get a space onto the property. So we're starting seeing a little bit more of that come up now as well.
Yeah. What's interesting is a lot of areas in the country, the zoning will permit a tiny home being put on an existing lot, a lot where the home already exists, for like in-laws. And they're considering it. They're
homestead.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that, because one of the trends that we've been seeing for the last couple of years now, it's mostly because of it's called mobile worker status. People that are taking a 6-month contract or a 9-month contract, and they're not traveling with their families and pets. It's just them, and sometimes the employer is paying the rent for them. So you're seeing a lot more of homes where it's almost like Airbnb came out, 15 years ago. Now it's a mature sector. I think the corporate housing sector is going through a major transformation. I think a lot more people, you're going to see more Main Street homes in Main Street America being rented out room by room for traveling nurses, traveling business executives and managers and software developers and, the oil and gas industry workers, things like that. Well, they're just there to work and make money. They're not there to make a real home out of it. And I think I think that's going to continue, Shastine. I mean, have you had people approach you about, buying a 4-bedroom ranch and renting out the rooms individually? Like they ask questions, hey, will zoning allow this? I mean, have you had those type of conversations increase?
Yeah, I do. And actually, a little bit more proactive to have those conversations, especially with, my clients that, that are in the millennial age or even Gen Z, just because we're trying to get them into ownership and, even if it's temporary due to the interest rates being lower, due to their financial status, but they're, they're going to get that promotion, or they're going to get out of school where they'll be able to afford more. We're talking about how can we get you into home ownership? It's not just a shut off. Nope, sorry, you can't qualify. Call me in 2 years, 3 years, or when you get married or get two incomes or whatever it may be. Again, as an agent, it's our job to find out how we can problem solve with our clients, understanding their circumstances and their future goals, and then seeing how we can get them into home ownership now instead of waiting. And so part of that conversation that I have with some of my clients, in fact, I got a younger gentleman into his first home, and same thing, he's renting out some of the rooms in his homes. His family was able to help with the down payment. He qualified for the home. But again, it was about down payment. And then, he didn't want to be strapped. So we talked about the renting out of rooms. And, and it was a beautiful, it fit his scenario perfectly. And that's something that we need to be more heightened as agents to do, is to look what's going on in our industry, find out what are the problems that our clients are having, whether they're, buying for themselves or they're an investor. What is the issue, or what are the things are they going to be coming up against? And how can we get them the answers to solve that problem so that they can begin to move forward? And so I have more of those conversations, not so, with just traditional buyers that want to purchase, because I just want them to think outside of the box, think short term. It's only a temporary sacrifice or a long-term gain. But, having your money actually work for you and going, towards your retirement or going towards, your next buy-up home means everything. And so it's, we just need to provide that information and know options for them.
Hi, just a quick announcement. We'll go back to the podcast. If you're curious and been wanting to learn more about the Global Investor Agent Team that we mentioned sometimes on the podcast, well, you can. On Thursday, January 19th, 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm putting on a special broadcast on Zoom where we call it a GIA launch, GIA meaning Global Investor Agent. Okay. So this is for you if you are already an agent or you're thinking of becoming an agent. You definitely want to be on this. Okay. The fact is, right now, the market is changing. It's not time to panic. It's time to prepare. And this is going to show you how. The members of the team make an average of 4 transactions, 4 commissions for every client versus only 1 for traditional clients. You also get to work on transactions with investors from around the country, even the world. It completely transforms and expands your business from a local business to a much broader scale. This is real, and it's happening right now, and this is the answer to what's happening in today's economy. I'll see you on the 19th. Look for the link below, click on it, and join us. I'll see you there. It's back to the show. It's amazing. I just thinking back, Shastine, the very first house I bought was literally within a month of me graduating college. And I bought it with my college roommate, whose name was Socrates. His dad was a Greek immigrant, big investor. And we did that. Now people call it house hacking. You buy a house, you rent out the additional bedrooms. So Sock and I bought a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom ranch in Virginia Beach, Virginia, 5 minutes from the beach. And we rented out the other 2 rooms, and the other 2 guys' rents paid our mortgage payments less about $50. That was it. Our out of pocket, everyone's like $50. And we had our first jobs writing software, and Sock was in the hardware side, and we were making money, living a life. We bought a boat. I mean, we were typical dumb guys. I mean, we had everything out in front of us, and we just blew it on stupid stuff, But thankfully, his dad was patient with us and told us. He said, "Look, if you guys do what I tell you to do, you won't have to work for anybody else when you're 35 years old." I mean, neither one of us listened. But when I was 35, that message hit me right in with the heart. And 5 years later, I did retire doing exactly what he told me, which was to accumulate real estate. And for everybody listening, the biggest lesson I can ever give you, and this is me speaking to you now, looking back over all those years, is I never really regretted buying a property. I had some that gave me some real headaches and a lot of gray hair. Believe me, this gray hair is there for a reason. But I looking back, I wish I had every property I ever sold because of the way the market's gone, and that it's been 37 years this January since we bought that first house. I just, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I want to sell this one to get the next one. And you really don't need to do that. I mean, keep what you have. rent out the rooms, do what Shastine did, just think, have one eye on today and one eye on tomorrow. And if you're an agent out there listening to this, remember Shastine's an agent too. And I'm an agent. I coach everybody. I'm not in production like I used to be, but I'm close to it because I get agents everywhere. Man, you really should take this seriously and serve your clients. Think like Zig Ziglar, be a servant leader, help other people get what they want, and you'll get plenty of what you want. And you don't have to have hundreds of properties like I did, but maybe if you had three additional properties over a lifetime, just imagine what that would do for you and your family. College education could be paid for. You leave your children a house, whatever. But Shastine, any thoughts on that? I know we're getting close on time here, but I'm really interested in the message that you leave with people, because I've been with you enough to know you come from the heart. You are a servant leader, and you put others first. Here's the way I see this: is for every agent, a transaction will get you a commission. A relationship will get you a lifetime of prosperity when you serve the relationship first. And I just know that you exude that. I mean, that's why I love having you work with me. And I hope that I'll have that privilege for a long time. So, but any thoughts or words of wisdom along those lines, like looking forward and having one out today, one out tomorrow,
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that, treating people as a new friend, new true relationship and not a transaction, is the fact that you're out for their long-term interest, which means, yes, you got them into your home, but now let's talk about building that legacy, building up that retirement. And that only happens through building a relationship. People, when you first meet them as a realtor, they're not going to tell you their whole financial story or picture or what's going on in their life. But as you spend time together and as you keep communication with them after you're done selling them their home, you're able to cultivate trust, and you're able to, just come from that helpful heart to say, have you thought about this? And it's not like the next slimy sale. It's not about that. It's about, especially as we get older, I always say, man, I wish somebody would have told me, I wish somebody would have been that realtor. My realtor sold us our first house in Fairbanks, Alaska. I wish they would have had more of a conversation or a training platform to invite me to learn more about the importance of, owning property and what that means, and not being fearful about it. Fear is only there because you don't have the answers that you need. Because if you had the answers that you need, the fear would go away. And so, it's just unanswered questions is all that fear is. And so, evidence appearing, right? False evidence appearing real, right? And that's only because you don't have the truth to kind of knock it out of the way. So with, my clients, it's always about gaining enough relationship to where you can have that next question, to where it's not awkward, but it's just like, okay, yay, we got you in your next home. Now, have you thought about this? And just posing the questions to them, or just, so then they can say, you know what, I have it. And I don't know, my so-and-so lost, you hear the horror stories.
Oh yeah.
And it's just because maybe they weren't guided on a good property management company, or even how to properly screen your tenants, or are looking at all aspects of their finances before making that purchase, or having just a plan in place, right? Yeah. And a lot of times that will also involve more than just me as a realtor. That will involve, a lender, and that will involve maybe a different lender instead of your preferred lender, because I can tell you firsthand, being a realtor in the industry, that I have a lot of great lenders that I worked with and still work with today. However, when I get no from one, I have a conversation with another. and I have experienced that second conversation got me the house, and so, so don't give up on the first no. You keep asking until you get the yes, or you get the answer so that you can make it a yes. And so it's just having people in your court that, just encourage you and spur you on, and let you know that they're going to be there for you and guide you in the right direction, or point you to people who can, and that's what's so vital. And that's one of the reasons why I joined your team, Gary, because I didn't look to do that. I never, I had my own team, but again, it's about the people that you surround yourself with, and being around people who are very knowledgeable with investments, creative financing, how to gauge the markets, different ways of investing is it's so valuable. It's just like, it's priceless. And so, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I will be the first to admit, I know you've heard me say this before, and it's so true. I'm blessed. I've had my share of, bloody noses along the years, but I always had great people. God always put the right people in my path, and because I didn't get where I am by myself. I definitely had help. And when you come across people like that, they're out there. It's not just me. It's not just you. Thankfully, they're out there. You just have to reach out and ask, and pick up the phone call. You'd be surprised at how people who have achieved much, or maybe achieved the kind of things you want to achieve, how many of them are actually willing to help. You just not all of them. I can't guarantee that, but I can promise there's enough of them out there that it definitely pays. And always suggest to people, look for people where there's a possibility or probability of your life being better as a result of that relationship. If it's a giving relationship, it's probably going to end up being pretty good, versus one where it's just someone's always taking, and that doesn't last long. And so for everybody out there, particularly the agents listening, look for someone like Shastine. I mean, I know, like, the way we operate is like she mentioned my team. It's not a traditional team. We don't make you do things the team way and everything goes in a team. And it's not at all. It's all about you, the agent. So you got like Shastine who's building her own team, and the company we're with, which is EXP, by the way, gives us the platform to do that. It's not that internal competitive, combative type environment. It's an open, sharing environment, and it's okay because it's collaborative and everybody wins. The rising tide lifts all ships. Hey, now since we mentioned that, Shastine, would you mind? I know we're short on time. Would you mind touching briefly on, building a team, like why you're doing that, and some of the benefits? I know one of us, you actually can help other people develop, which feels really good. But would you mind just touching on that briefly before we wrap things up?
Yeah, in fact, again, I have conversations with different agents that are, come to me and ask about teams, because I built a team out for a different brokerage, left that brokerage, had my own team, and disintegrated that, and then started rebuilding again, after basically during COVID time. And the importance of team building is for leverage and support, and for synergy, and for accountability. And that's also for the leader just as much as it is for the other team players on the team. And that's just because, we're all going to have those ups and downs. We're all of us may deal with some stinking thinking in the morning, or a season we might have some stinking thinking. Real estate can be very demanding, but when we do it together, when we support one another, we can lean on one another. That's what a team structure will do for you. Now, what EXP will do for you, not that this is an EXP call, but I guess what I should say, the importance of interviewing brokerages, no matter what brokerage that you're at, is learning about the different model systems that they have, and what kind of training that up that model system. Because you have a traditional team and you have a modern team. And traditional teams, I learned all about teams wonderfully through KW. They were really the forerunner on that concept. A lot of training. EXP taught how to do it a different way, which is like a modern team, which allows people to have their own identity, allows people to have the support, the structure, the sharing of information without competition, without backbiting, without, losing your identity. And so the modern team that EXP trains their agents to be able to set up is absolutely phenomenal. And I was one of those that preached that I would never leave Keller Williams. I was with them for 15 years alone. They're a great company. They have great training. It's just that as things are emerging, you need to be with how things are shifting and changing, and be open to what is now available to you and different ways of doing things. Otherwise, you can just kind of be missing out on a lot.
Yeah,
and
it's next generation. I mean, it is. It's literally the industry changing right in front of us,
Yeah, so I've changed from the traditional team to the modern agent team, meaning that I'm more of, when I have leads, I give those to my teams for a referral fee. They still have their own brand. They still have their, their name, and I help with the, one-on-one calls or the weekly training calls, and things like that. And we always talk and support one another, so that when they're gone on vacation, I support them. I'm gone, they support me, and we get together as if they were on my team and all of their production was under my name. That's not the way that I do it, but yet we have the synergy of that. That's how we actually operate. And so, and it's just a different way of thinking and doing it. You don't have to have the whole pie. Actually, you're going to succeed a lot better when you do it the Zig Ziglar way.
It is. It absolutely. So it's the first time, and I've been in real estate again for a long time. My gosh, and it's hard to even say the number 37, but it's this week is literally the 37th anniversary. I can't even. I'm looking at the camera now to see all the gray hair. I think, okay, well maybe it is 37. But it's life changing. It's what it is, guys. Is I'll put it this way. It's in traditional model. The way it's designed is, you can develop people in a specific role, like only a buyer's agent. Well, that's in the past. Okay, people are more capable of that. You want people to be more well-rounded, to be able to serve a broader, spectrum of the marketplace and be able to serve more people and play the role of listing agent and buyer's agent, things like that. But more importantly, you mentioned it, Shastine, have their own identity. So it's designed for us to help develop others. Whereas in the old environment, it was close to the vest. They didn't share their best things because those people became competitors. I'm not saying this isn't competitive, but you grow by helping others grow. It's the most incredible thing. And once you grasp it and you experience it, you will never go back. I can promise. I've made more progress in the last 2 years than I made in the prior 8 years. It's unbelievable for me to even say that, because I was doing quite well, but it absolutely 100% true. And it's the model that makes it possible, helping you, encouraging you, training you, developing you to be able to develop others. And that's really the secret to success. And Zig Ziglar said it perfectly, like you said, just helping enough other people get what they want, be able to get plenty of what you want. And this model is designed to live that message in real time, real world experiences and rewards. It's just amazing. So I feel like I'm getting on a soapbox here, but I'm glad you mentioned it, because we normally don't. It doesn't come up, but this is a great conversation because we know each other and we know the story, and it's. I mean, we're here because of it,
Yeah.
So, well, Shastine, I want to thank you again for doing this. I mean, you're truly are. One of God's great servants, and I think the marketplace rewards you for it. For everybody listening, I'll just tell you, I measure and track everything because that's just my brain. I'm in NASA, banking, all kinds of high tech stuff in the background. But Shastine is absolutely the top of the game, and I think Shastine this year I wonder if I still got it in my notes. I think you got the award. Let's see. For sales volume, you got the award for the entire team, and that is a lot of people, guys. Remember, we're in half the states now. That's an amazing accomplishment. So congratulations for doing that. And it's funny because I asked you to be on the podcast before I even ran those numbers. Isn't that amazing? So,
well, even what's more amazing is that, I look at the people and not the numbers, right? And that's what it's all about. I mean, the numbers will follow when you just serve the people.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. And so, anybody looking to relocate would love to be able to assist, offer just information if you need it. Sometimes you just need to find out some things to determine whether Pacific Northwest is going to be the place for you. And so I have many different places that they can go to find that information. I do have a YouTube channel, Vancouver, Washington Living, which I am doing more community market videos regarding the surrounding areas, the housing, the pricing, the different little cities that we have here in Vancouver, because a lot of people are relocating, in and out of the state. And so again, as our times change, we need to change with it. And part of that is having more information digitally for, people who are just needing to get information so they can make a good choice. So they can go to my YouTube channel or to my website. My name is unique. So it's Shastine.com. That's the simplest. If you wanted to spell out and have more words, it would be BredlieandAssociates.com. And in there is all of my direct information to where they can reach out, and I'll be happy to share some more information. Whether you're an agent, an investor, or somebody who's looking to relocate because this is going to be your home state, I'd love the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, I tell you what, Shastine will give you the scoop on how you leverage the marketplace there. We call it the river. You're on one side, you got Portland, Oregon, on the other side, you got Vancouver, Washington. People will work on one side, live on the other. So for you investors out there, reach out to Shastine. She'll tell you exactly what to buy, where to buy it, and the market to serve if you want to invest. And by the way, Shastine, I'm going to spell this for everybody. So everybody write this down, or if you're driving, just replay it later. Shastine, that's Shastine. Bredlie, just like it sounds, Bredlie. And Shastine, would you mind giving the YouTube channel again? Because I think that's pretty important,
Yeah, it's Vancouver, Washington Living.
Vancouver, Washington Living. Perfect.
Yep, and you'll see me in there. And yes, and I actually was raised on both sides, or lived on both sides. I was raised over in Oregon, so I know everything from the east to the west side of Portland, as well as spending the last 22 years over here in Washington. So
yeah,
I can provide a lot of information.
And it's for both. By the way, guys, both. When I say guys, everybody knows I mean guys and girls both. It's just the East Coast. Everybody's a guy. But they're called green states, not because they're beautifully green because of foliage and the trees and everything. But financially speaking, those two states are the two fastest growing states economically in the Northwest. Bar none, hands down, nothing that ever even comes close. So remember, if you're looking to raise your family in a nice place, you're looking to capitalize on that as an investor, I'm telling you, you can't get much better than that. So look up Shastine, Vancouver, Washington Living YouTube channel, and Shastine Bredlie. Just Google it or go to Shastine.com and have a great conversation, because I promise you're going to learn a lot. And particularly if you're an agent and you're in the area, man, it's just find out why and how Shastine is the number one, right, on the team, a big team, and has a growing team too that helps you develop your brand, your model, your way. So thank you very much, Shastine. Once again, I really appreciate this. A pleasure to see you, by the way. And we'll let you know when this goes out for the public. If you could please leave a review, that would be awesome, because reviews are what makes the podcast world go around. They call it the currency of podcasts, is a review. And while you're out there, go to Shastine.com and also go to globalinvestoragent.com. Click on the Learn More button, particularly if you're an agent. Figure out what this is all about and how you can be part of it. And if you're an investor or a consumer, look on there to grab yourself an agent. Okay. All right. You guys take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.